Resident Evil alone took up 6 games right there. 1, 2, 3, Survivor. Hey everyone, it's Jason from GameRave.com, otherwise known as Danger Boy. This is GameRaveTV. Alright, so this episode of GameRaveTV brings us back to the Letter Legacy, and for those of you who are just joining us, the Letter Legacy is our attempt to find 27 PlayStation games, 26 from the letters and 1 from the numbers, that truly represent the PlayStation and you have to play. The catch being, we can only pick 1 game from each letter. So, that being said, this week's episode is the letter R. Now, the letter R has a ton of great games in it. You have the entire Resident Evil series, you got Road Rash, you've got Ridge Racer, oh, I love the Ridge Racer, you've got Raiden Project, but let's start whittling this down, and we're going to jump right to the finalists. Alright, the first runner-up that we had was Rage Racer. Rage Racer was the 3rd game in the Ridge Racer series from Namco, and it is one of the best games you'll ever play on the PlayStation. It was the first Ridge Racer to allow customization. You could actually design logos for your hood and on billboards and kind of change up the colors and so forth. The track variety was a little bit different. Ridge Racer was normally about tracks and through the mountains and so forth. With Rage Racer, they had more hills. In fact, one of my favorite stages, you could actually fly off the top of the hill coming down around a corner. But as good as Rage Racer is, there are better racing games to be played, and as much as I love it, it's really not a game you have to have a PlayStation for. Next up is Raiden Project. Quite possibly one of the greatest launch titles ever released for any game system. It was the quintessential vertical shooter back in the day. You had Raiden Project, was Raiden 1 and Raiden 2, and I could go on forever talking about these games, but it's just a great shooter. You could actually pick them up on PC ports, and I think they're released on the Xbox 360 collection as well. But if you have a PlayStation, just grab this. It's awesome. I think I've got about 100 hours into that poor disc. The next runners up were the games from the Race series, Ray Crisis and Race Storm. Just another great vertical spaceship shooter, though polygon compared to the Raiden Project's sprite-based engine. Just really good power-ups, good graphics, neat bad guys, just really well done. Man, there's so many good games in R, this is going to suck. Obviously, if we're talking about R, we have to name every damn Resident Evil game out there, including Survivor. I liked it. Give it a chance, it's all good. Resident Evil is quite possibly the quintessential horror game. Like, it basically invented an entire genre, starting on the PlayStation with the first one. Resident Evil 1 and 2 and 3 still hold up really well over time. 3 can be forgiven for its, stars problem. But the fact that you can buy those games on damn near anything, including the remake of the remake on the GameCube that's now on Xbox Live and PlayStation Network, you don't need a PlayStation to play any of these games. They can be had elsewhere on the Dreamcast and N64, etc. Another oddity that I couldn't get into, it's a great game, but I couldn't get into it, was Rival Schools by Capcom. Rival Schools is a 3D fighting game, kind of like Soul Calibur and Tekken and so forth, but it's based around school activities. So you have the sports team and the volleyball team and the academic team and the chemistry team. The combat system was very peculiar, and you have to give it a lot of patience to get the gist of what's going on. What made Rival Schools on the PlayStation so awesome for its fans was that it came with a second disc full of just a whole bunch of extra content, extra gameplay modes, and all that good stuff. However, not an essential. Another racing good guy in the R letter is Road Rash, obviously. Now, while Road Rash 3D and Road Rash Jailbreak really didn't hit off with the fans, the original Road Rash that was essentially a port from the 3DO still holds up to this day. It was just a really great use of 2D sprites and 3D trickery to make it look like a full 3D game. It's actually, it can also be had for pennies on the dollar. Just still a good game, especially if you don't have the 3DO. But because it's on the 3DO, it's not a PlayStation essential. Another game that, had it not been available on other systems, would have probably won hands down, is the Rayman series. Rayman 1 and 2, along with some other kids games released for it, is just absolute gorgeous gaming. Rayman 1, when it first released on the Jaguar and the PlayStation and the Sega Saturn, was one of the most beautiful, and still is to this day, most beautiful 2D games ever released. The Saturn version actually is a little bit prettier than the PlayStation version for obvious reasons. You can check our battle mode for that. And then Rayman 2, while just an amazing 3D open world, not open world, but 3D game, there was a better version released on the Dreamcast and the PlayStation 2, so that can be had there. Rounding out the runner-ups for R, that was a lot of R's, is R-Type Delta. Now, R-Type Delta, or I should say R-Type in and of itself, has been around forever. It's been around the arcades, TurboGrafx, Super Nintendo, all those good guys. What made R-Type Delta special and important to PlayStation players was that it was one of the first, for lack of a better term, sequels and reboots that took a sprite-based game and brought it into 3D and did amazing things with it. There were a lot of redone games on the PlayStation, like Centipede and Space Invaders and Breakout and stuff like that, and a lot of their 3D reboots just didn't gel as well as the original 2D ones did. But R-Type Delta is so much fun and so pretty, especially if you have it in a high-def situation. Definitely recommend it. Now, before we get to the official R game for the Letter Legacy, we'd like to have a special mention for Riven. Now, Riven is much better on the PC, but the reason we're having it here is because it's actually the largest PlayStation 1 game released in the US. It's 5 CDs. They had to design a special CD case that folded out an extra once or twice to get all the CDs into the same case. Trying to hold that thing is a brick. It's ridiculous. So the question is, what is the R game you have to play on PlayStation? After all is said and done, that would be Rhapsody. If you've never played this game before, it's a strategy RPG like Final Fantasy Tactics and Brigading for that matter, but it is the most sugar-coated, bizarro, just like, I remember when I first played this years ago, you sit there and you're just going, this is not going to happen. And then it happens, and you're like, that just happened. Basically, you play Cornet, who is this cute little girl right there, and she has this living puppet, Karuru. And you basically are, the point of the game is she's trying to get with a guy. That's it. What makes the game fun is that it literally does not take itself seriously in any way, shape, or form. As you go through her daily life and combating all the, bad guys who are all smiles and happy and, joyous as any other person in the game is, what makes the game stand out is obviously its cuteness. Like, it's just sugar on a disc. What brought this to my attention the first time years ago when it came out was that besides the cuteness, the actions in the game are just absolutely ridiculous. Like, one of your magic spells is you drop buttered, syrup-filled pancakes on people. Seriously. No. Seriously. Another really nice thing about the game is that its American translation was done wonderfully. They were able to avoid the working designs trap with all the pop culture references and goofy translations and, character-breaking issues, and keep it laughable and, for lack of a better term, pure. If you're a collector, it actually has the actual music for the game in there, which is actually really nice too. It's also sadly in demand, but the amount you'll pay for it depends on how much of a condition whore you are. I've seen the game go as low as $13 disc only, all the way up to about $110 for a complete copy. On average, it's probably about a $50 game, give or take. It's totally worth it, though. It is very, very unique. There was a re-release of Rhapsody on the DS, but it was a completely different beast. So much so that my fiancée, Rebecca, played it, and, the PlayStation one's a little bit better. Alright guys, that does it for this week's episode. We will see you next week on Pause Mode with our first Dreamcast game review. And other than that, just comment below, what are your favorite R games? What was the one R game you would want for your PlayStation? Discuss. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.